yeah, welcome to Open Space Committee meeting, and maybe let's just go around for Alice. You said it.
Jim?
Okay, I'm David Powell. Do we have to, you want more?
No, that's okay. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, I should say I've been on open spacing for years. Maybe is that a reasonable way to put it? Yeah.
And Bill, so we live over on the other end of town, over towards on the Parker River, in the Lower Green, and this is open spaces all new to us, although we had participated on the master plan committee way back.
A different town.
Different time.
Yeah.
State.
And I'm Christina, and we're married. So, yeah, happy to be here. Great to meet you, Ella.
Mike Carboni, go over on Scotland Road side of town.
Awesome. And I'm Kristen. And yeah, so Ella reached out to see if we could use some help around planning office, because she's interested in planning. I'll let you introduce yourself, but like, we were like, yeah, that'd be awesome. I will.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. We were just doing introductions. But yeah, just having college students who are like thinking about the world, like really exciting ways, and local. I was like, great. So we're just starting to talk about what that'll look like, and how much time Ella might have, and what kinds of projects. But knowing that her dad was going to be here, I was like, well, come see our open space committee meeting, which is just getting really heard again. So yeah, so it's great to thank you for joining us.
Good to be here. So I'm Ella. Just finished my first year of college. I'm actually in Canada. I went to University of Toronto. Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about what's going on in Newbury. So I've lived here my whole life, but like, I've never thought about it more than the houses here now. So I learn more about like urban planning, and I'm excited to learn more of that.
Excellent.
Great. And
Martha. Hi.
do you want to introduce yourself? Okay, that's enough. Martha's been director of planning for how many years?
Well, I've been here for 15 and a half.
15 years. And also as a resident, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and I worked on both the first and second open space plan.
As a volunteer and also as
And
a
that was,
staff.
first as a volunteer and then as staff.
So that was our call to order, and welcome. Citizen queries, last time we had a citizen, but not today.
Did we put him off, do you think?
I don't know.
Well, he lives in Caldwell Farm, I
Yeah.
discovered. And he used to live in Linfield, was on the school committee for, I think he said 20 years, but I can't remember, maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, he said simply to me that he had interesting experience of local government, so I don't know whether we were part of that or not, but that's what little I know anyway. And I hope actually he might come back, because he, I thought, said some rather interesting things at the end.
Yeah, I agree. And Martha mentioned that as a Caldwell Farm resident, he was involved in some of the discussions around conservation restriction and trail that's on that property, which is one of the things that we've been talking about recently, of getting sorted out and actually created, established as a public trail. So that would be a great, obviously,
Yeah.
that's a great resource to have someone who lives on the property and just any effort. So I think that effort is sort of going to be led by the conservation agent, and since it's the Conservation Commission that has care, custody, and control of that conservation restriction property, but with the expertise at this table, I think Sean who's our new agent, would be really interested in, like, maybe we could invite him to our next meeting just to talk about that, and if there's things that can move forward. We've got some trail expertise and lots of other expertise, so.
Well, I will confess I have a track record there, so we made a mistake, I think, some years ago, and the then chairman of the planning board, John Weiss, yes? We all went and marched around over there, and John essentially backed off, right? He sort of let them understand they have an association and they have a board of directors or whatever, I think,
Yes,
Martha, yes?
yeah, trustees.
Yeah, and I think they came away from that with the idea somehow that the town really wasn't going to pursue it. And I don't know whether that was John's intention, but that was certainly the feedback I got from a couple of people I know who were living there at the time.
Yeah.
And bad news, not the way to play it. And
I think
Yeah,
there's been
it's-
progress since then.
Yeah, I mean, that was not the intention. We got them to agree to a trail layout while he was still here. And then we did work through a trail, basically a trail use agreement, which Barry was part of that process, negotiating that.
Mhm.
So, you know.
But so where did it, I mean, there is, one of the things that I found a little irritating is they have disguised the public parking.
Well, according to them, there was not ever an intention for public parking. So that was.
Well, they need to look at their, the plan. Anyway, okay.
Yeah, there's been some progress on it, but it needs to move forward, but I think there is some energy now to do that. So I personally, as a near neighbor, like, think it's interesting, and in terms of like the purview of this committee and the open space rec plan, I think it's great to sort of pull back and think about how it fits in with some other, there's some new trails nearby, and thinking about future connections and that kind of thing. So, so that would be great if Barry is like interested in still being involved. So the last meeting we talked a bit about a rec plan, and there's like a workbook for updating the plan. I wanted to share that Martha and I did submit a expression of interest to the state's one-stop grant program, and it was a very short form, the expression of interest, and they immediately send feedback and let you know whether, like, yeah, this sounds like a good one, and they said that, yes, seems like a good project, and this is the sort of pathway to the kind of funding. It's their recommendation was through the Rural Development Fund. I'll just look at exactly what it's called. So they have sort of a whole continuum that's channeled through this one stop, and then they tell you like where to actually apply. So it's the Rural Development Fund as underneath the Planning and Zoning Community Planning Fund. So anyway, none of that's particularly relevant other than they are supportive of an application. So I think it makes sense to try to get a little funding to assist with this committee's work over the year ahead. So that'll be something, that grant proposal. It's not too onerous, but it's more than the short form we filled out. So that's due early June. So I think I'm probably gonna take the lead on that, but I would certainly love to talk that through with all of you, because one of the items they identify as important is the public engagement process and timeline, some specificity around goals, and then also the progress and commitment to date. So I think it will really be in our interest that we've sort of recently reinstated the committee and have a lot of interest, and I'd love to just talk you guys all up in the grant proposal, and I think we have a really good chance at getting some funding. So I don't remember the deadline for the proposals is early June. I don't remember, but I'll check how long they say when they give responses by, but I think it's over the summer, and then, maybe by early fall, we'd know what the award might be and set forth a process to hire a consultant. So it's a little bit like I sort of welcome discussion on like what do we want to move forward with over that period of time, knowing that we would have the support of a consultant hopefully by the fall, but not before then. So just kind of thinking through the timeline of, starting to do some of the work to update, or, do we kind of hold on things a little bit and focus on some other projects, knowing that the actual update of the plan would start in force in the fall? I haven't really thought that through exactly.
Do you have to specify or allude to what area you might be looking for support? In other words, is it, just the whole thing or part of it?
Right, good question. What I filled out for the expression of interest was just, we want to update our open space and rec plan.
Right.
We think we're in a good position to do that, and we need some support. I think I said something about, we imagine some of the public engagement and the mapping being priority areas. But it was not, we will need to be more specific about that.
Right.
So,
Well, that's exciting.
yeah.
It sounds like it's a little step forward. And,
Yeah.
we're happy to, review and consider, participate in drafting up the language that they're looking for. I feel like we've, identified those tasks. It sounds like you touched on them already, but in terms of where we would want support on, the maps and doing some data pulls in terms of the land use and doing the interviews of key people that might have answers to kind of updates from the old plan.
Yeah.
Did we also say they could help with the data pull from the assessor's office for those parcels that are protecting? And I think we should talk about the survey and whether we want to wait until they come on board, or if it's something that we can tackle. I feel like you've done a little digging also, and I know we want to look through in detail the survey that David, that you put together, to take a look at it, so we can maybe decide if we want to wait for them or do that ourselves this summer. Is that something that we could tackle ourselves?
Right,
And then give them the results.
right.
I think
Good question.
there's tools out there that, if you know where to look, it's not as daunting. I think formulating the questions is important, and perhaps together we collectively come up with appropriate questions. But to come up with a survey and how to get it out to the public is a lot easier now. And it doesn't involve paper and mailings and stuff like that. Anybody can come up with a survey using Google Forms. And on the back end of that, it just populates in columns automatically a spreadsheet. And so your table of information and data is already done for you.
Yeah.
And so there's your first flush of how to get the data and access it. And then how it's used after that, and that's important to know. So that informs how you design the form and ask the questions. But I don't know what the capabilities are with the town, but if there's some type of you know, social media obviously is the first and biggest thing these days, and that's how everybody gets their news and stuff. So if there's somebody that does a town social media, that's one way that we could get it out to the public. It's really simple, making posters and stuff with QR codes now. You just go and just shoot it with your phone, it automatically just brings you to a page that's really handy and easy. And you're standing in line at Bruni's or someplace, and you can do the survey while you're waiting to check out. So I think that by doing that, I think we'd be, and if we really advertise it well, I think we could get a really good response. And that's pretty easy. That's something that we might be able to take on ourselves.
Yeah. And actually, when you think of summer, like you sort of think, oh, there's really a lot of places we could each sign up for like an hour slot. Like you're saying, like, I don't know, like stand at the beach parking lot, or like the new bathroom.
Stand at Old Town Hill.
Yeah. QR code, you're in line.
Yeah.
Yeah, Old Town Hill. Yeah. I mean, that would be kind of fun to brainstorm, and I do think people are out and about, so it would be kind of a good, people are a little more relaxed in the summer, right?
Yeah.
And everyone's on their phones, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, take David's questions and roll them into online.
Well, yeah, since we met last, I've had some, how should I say, negative thoughts. And that has to do with the fact that I think we're all surveyed to death. I have made the mistake over time of contributing to various organizations who clearly have sold me on, if you know what I mean, okay? In other words, if you contribute to a green organization, they will sell you on to all the other people. As a member of, for example, Mass Audubon, National Audubon doesn't seem to have any idea that I might not want to join them because I'm a member of Mass Audubon, right? So I get constant mailings from National Mass Audubon, which is in Washington, D.C., and also surveys. I also get surveys from the Southern Poverty Law Center, ACLU, you name it, okay? Now, I have no idea whether that's based on my giving track record, but I have a feeling that that's part of it. But I think what it is, frankly, is that there's some, I don't know, I have to put this, there's some idea in the revenue world of non-profits that sending people surveys is the way to get them to open the envelope. Because they're oversized, for one thing. Nobody, has anyone gotten one from from the Arbor? Right? Okay. Well, they come and they're oversized envelopes, and they say, you know, reply within 10 days. You don't know whether that's a threat or a promise. Usually it's neither, it's both in the sense. So, cut a long story short, I began to think, okay, unsolicited surveys, meaning that you people, citizens in Newbury, didn't ask for them, are negatives. So somehow the survey needs to be something that does offer you something. And I'm not entirely sure what that is. Two things occur to me. One is that probably, I think, we should offer with the survey a map of what we know about properties with trails. Because my guess is a lot of people who we might be surveying really don't know how many trails there are in town. And also one of the other things is that even if you get online to All Trails or something like that, it's a very unreliable app in many ways unless you pony up money and get to be a premium user. So I think one of the things we need to do is to reward people. We also need to identify who the survey comes from, that it doesn't come, You know, these are just my thoughts. That doesn't come from, well, okay. I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. Right? The famous Reagan comment, right? I think there is quite a lot of people I can think of I've met over the years in Newbury who have a very poor opinion of town government in terms of their intentions. And unfortunately, we are going to look, if we're not careful, like town government. So all of those things are things that...
We are.
Yeah, right.
Let's
we
change
are.
their mind, like, we're good.
Yes. Hopefully we will not drive up people's driveways and, you know, say, you know, here's a survey, will you do it? But anyway, those are some things to think about in terms of how we, as it were, need to move ourselves out of the world of the Arbor people and the Southern Poverty Law Center and Southwest Indian Foundation and you name it.
Yeah.
And there has to be, I think, from the get-go, some sort of reward. I'm afraid, you know, it's a bit cynical, I know, but I'm afraid we live in a society where that tends to be how it works. You know, you tend to get a discount if you do it now. I don't know that we can do that, but, and the other thing is that I'm not sure, I've also thought, because Christina had mentioned Newbury Days, and one of the images that came to my mind about that was, if the presentation's right, that's really great, but if it's not, we're going to look like somebody standing outside a market basket asking for who knows what, anything from support your crippled POW to how are you going to vote. And, you know, so those are some of the public hazards which I think tend to end up influencing the response pattern you get. Which is one of the reasons, one of the questions I had in here may seem a bit odd, and that is, did you do this as a family as opposed to an individual? Because I thought that was an interesting, if we could get people to be honest, if you have, you know, people sitting around talking about it as to somebody saying, oh, I'll do it. So those are some of the issues that I've thought about the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think they're good questions. I certainly, your comment about how many things you get in the snail mail that are surveys, where you're like, I never signed up for that, right? It's sort of the spread of content or whatever. But, I mean, I guess, so to me, that sort of observation, which I think is very apt, aligns with actually being a face who's a neighbor in a location that's local. Because I feel like people are more inclined to support their neighbor, you know, the local. That's the benefit of being a small town, is we can like know each other or recognize each other or be open to having a conversation. So if there's some kind of, you know, workforce capacity among all of us to like actually stand in front of the library on a Saturday morning, you know the people there are Newbury residents already who are using a public resource already. You know, finding the ways to not have those barriers to participation.
Yeah. Right.
That makes sense. The reward thing is kind of interesting because I'm immediately like, maybe we can get somebody to donate something, right? Like, and then if you fill out the survey and give your email, then you're entered into the raffle for, I don't know what, I don't know, not just a Greenbelt membership, but I don't know. Like maybe White Rose Canoe would like donate a, like, I don't know, just a gift certificate or something. Like, you know, maybe we can leverage some of the partners who are in support of open space. I don't know, that's a new thought. And do we need to do that? I don't know. Maybe people would fill it out anyway. Would that help more people be inclined to fill it out?
And I mean, this is different from, say, the Arbor Day survey because it's a direct impact on your town and helping to shape your town. And I think we found with the master plan survey, a lot of people were
Yeah.
engaged and we got a good return.
Yeah, had plenty of opinions.
Yeah.
What were some of the avenues that were used for that?
We did a lot of what Bill was talking about.
Yeah.
There was a Survey Monkey.
Right.
And we had a QR code. We actually did we mailed postcards to, all the households.
I should know, but I don't recall.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
And we tried doing that, but we
Yeah.
actually did quite.
yeah,
And that actually caught the attention of a surprising number of people because you think people don't really, they get mail and they throw it in the trash basket these days. But a lot of people, we asked how they heard about the survey and the work, and a lot of them said we got the postcard in the mail. So I think it's really kind of a multi-pronged
Right.
approach to
Absolutely.
do it.
yeah.
Just out of curiosity, how many people completed the survey in that, do you remember?
I think we had about a third or something of
Yeah.
responses. It was
That
pretty
sounds
good.
right.
It was,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our consultant was the one who did it, Emily Innes, who lives in town, actually, and is a professional planner. And she thought that the return was pretty good.
Yeah, are you talking about the master plan?
Yeah.
It was 6%
Was it that small?
of the households. Yeah, it was
Yeah, I thought it was more
100,
than that.
just over 100, apparently according to the numbers, which based on the fact we have something like 2,700 households, ain't very good, I'm afraid. I hate to be negative, but
Yeah, and I do think that was, we flyered and we QR coded and we did postcards, but there wasn't, we did not stand at
Right.
Newberry Days or
Mhm.
stand at the beach, and that I feel like, whatever, we're all busy, so like, if you catch someone at the right time, they're more inclined to,
Yeah, yeah.
otherwise, then it goes, so. Yeah, you can always do more, but maybe
I love
we
the-
have some, like, a little more capacity.
Yeah, I love the idea of the
Yeah.
transfer station, the library,
Right,
Plum Island. They're definitely
yeah, like maybe Triton,
little league
right?
games or
That'd
whatever.
be kind of cool to,
Right.
that's where the survey design, I feel like, just spending some time to make sure we're capturing. And I haven't really looked at what they tell us we need to make sure we capture, but I think that's an important thing in terms of like, do you have to ask what someone's age is?
Right.
yeah.
Because if so, then we need to target where we,
Do they get
Like stand at
that?
the bus stop at Triton, I don't know,
Do
like,
they get that specific?
I don't remember.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think you have to have a reasonable profile of your population, both of the response and what you asked. One of the things that strikes me in this connection is, organizations. The parents, there's an very active PTA at the round school, right?
yeah,
Interestingly, my wife always reminds me that it's noticeable that we don't have a League of Women Voters group in Newbury, never have had, and so we've never had anybody
There was
who's...
some, is it Sally
Right.
Hamilton something? Sorry. I thought there was like a,
Hmm?
I thought there was one.
No, well, why? If there is one, they would have been sponsoring what happened just recently. We have to have the government sponsor the candidates' night in terms of where it is, okay, together
Okay, yeah,
with the,
interesting.
that's the reason,
I
no.
believe you, I just
Yeah,
sort of,
no.
if you'd asked me, I think I would have.
But there are fraternal, isn't that the phrase, organizations that exist specific to Newbury and maybe they're willing to get involved. I would certainly think that a PTA type organization should be, because after all that involves just the kind of people it seems to me we're
Users.
serving toward the future, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And would you go, I mean, here we, like the Council on Aging to
Yeah.
capture, you know?
Yeah,
right.
yeah, how do you use it now, how do you, yeah.
I think one of the goals would be to, you mentioned matching the profile of residents in the town,
Mhm.
right? So you
Yeah.
certainly want to
Right.
take the measures to get the proper spread, right?
Just looking quickly at the previous survey in the 2010 plan there. Does anybody recall? Well, it says that you did a straw poll. We had about 18, it says there's about 18 responses per question. I know there wasn't 18 of us on the committee, and I don't remember
Oh, well.
where, like, how we did that back then.
I do, because I read it.
It wasn't
I
in
buried
session.
my head in
Okay.
shame. I did it. We had a meeting,
Yeah,
and we invited people, and about 18
That's-
people
yeah.
came. And I did the dog and pony show about the plan, and we asked questions at the beginning, and then we asked questions at the end, and we tried to measure, you know, whether they'd moved from A to B or what. It was frankly a bit pathetic, in all honesty. But we needed to do it
yeah.
Right.
because we needed to check the box, which
Right.
said, right, I'm trying to think at that point. We were having an issue or two on the planning board which spilled over into the open space committee, I think, yeah. But anyway, it was a bit perfunctory,
Gotcha.
yeah.
I couldn't remember
Yeah.
how
No, I pulled it out and I read D. Powell presented this and I went, what?
There were no cameras on us back then.
So do I
Yeah,
forgot,
right.
yeah.
Can we utilize the town website too? And, you know, I mean, I know, like on the homepage more so than the open space page, you know, something that everybody's got to pass. Yeah, exactly. You just see that news headline or,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
so it's not buried anywhere.
Yeah, on Facebook and all of that stuff, we've got all those social media tools that we can use.
Yeah, so like, you know, and maybe if there's a way like, you know, I automatically get agendas for, you know, the CONSCOM and the select board and the planning board and whatnot, you know, can that be piggybacked in that too? So kind of people that subscribe to those things can kind of automatically be sent it. You know, if you're already wanting, you know, the info coming from town, you know, can it just show up in your inbox as well?
Yeah, I think if you subscribe to news, you'll get those things when they come up.
Cool.
Not 100% sure, but we could.
And Open Space Committee has its own box to check, but that's, I don't know how many people are on there.
Right, and that's why I'm thinking
It's a
like,
combination of people who choose in, and then also people who like,
yeah.
haven't thought anything about open space yet.
Right,
you know, but-
right, and could it somehow, you know, when it's ready, get tacked to, you know, the planning board agenda that goes out, the select, so it hits maybe more people than, you know, might be checking the open space, you know, wanting that info tab, box rather.
And there's another thing, like, so it's good we have Facebook and Instagram, our access to it, and the ability to post, but in our experience, my experience, if you work and stuff, if you have groups, Facebook groups that will repost or post information about the survey. So for example, I'm looking here, and this is some stuff I follow, and here's Newberry Byfield News, it's got 3,000 members. Nice People of Newberry, 2,000 members. Kind People of Newberry.
Meet people in Newberry.
We want kind people, that's a good one. You know,
Right.
Daily News in Newport, Newburyport, I mean, and people link there's
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's-
really quick, you can get a
Spread it
QR
pretty
code,
fast.
and if you have, if it's just like a 3-bullet thing that just quick, because people, that's the thing, you got 20 seconds to sell it, but if it's like, you know, what's important to you, open space, save the rural town, or whatever, however message we want to brand it, you get them to just get sucked in for that minute, you click on the QR code, it goes to our website, fill out the survey here, and we're off and running.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome.
Do these kinds of surveys always stay anonymous, or do you ask enough to at least playing into the profile, what part of town are you from, things
Right.
along those lines, so you can cluster.
Yeah,
So
I
you-
mean, we've done the demographics,
Yeah.
which are interesting, but it's anonymous unless people want to provide, say, their email address at the end. If they're interested in getting more information, so we'll ask for that.
Yeah.
Is it worth sending out like, you know, because people have the option to opt in, is it worth like making an announcement under the news section that just says the open space committee is working on the open space and recreation plan. If you'd like updates,
Yeah.
click here, just so that we can like start to get some traffic and start to maybe get some people to click yes for open space before we're ready to send out the survey.
Right?
Yeah.
Just to-
Should we craft a little note that says, hi, everybody, hi town?
It's not a newsletter sign up, but it's.
Yeah, but it's like,
Yeah.
hey, if you want the updates, click
Yeah.
here, you know?
So that's,
Yeah.
yes, definitely, I love that, and sort of a good segue to something I wanted to make sure we talk about, which is, so, and I think we talked about this at one of the earlier meetings, but now here we are in May, and the fiscal year appointments to committees will be coming around, the annual process comes around this time of year, so the select board will be making their whole slate of fiscal year 25 appointments at their June meeting, which I think is June 11th. So what Mark and I talked about briefly earlier was now's a great time to start messaging about this committee, right? Because we can have more members. So that's good. Like, I think in general, the select board with staff will be going through all the committees and identifying which ones have vacancies and sort of doing like a general overview. But if we want to do a more specific thing, like even a press release to the daily, whatever we want to do, now is good timing to invite people to participate, give them a heads up that there's, you know, already a newly reinvigorated committee, specifically for all of you, if you're interested in officially being a member for fiscal year 25, we will pass those names up. And just to say, I would prefer as staff to support the committee but not be a member. So that's something I intend to express personally, because I feel as though it's good to have the committee be made up of all volunteers and have all the seats that are available. I will be supportive and participate anyway, so why not open up the seat for a resident? So anyway, so that's all kind of coming ahead in the next weeks, you know, up until that mid-June date when the appointments get made. People can get appointed at other times as well, but it's just sort of an opportunity to
So
officially have everyone on the list, on the website, you know, sign in with the clerk, all that has to happen again, sorry. You guys should.
Okay,
So, now you know, it's no big deal.
I missed the boat on that, but so
Yeah, so. if
my
you're
chance would be next
interested-
month.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Ella, you can join. Or you could just be a guest for the summer. Anyone's open to participating, but
Do they
if you
limit?
officially.
Put limits on, they must,
gosh.
right? No?
I don't think there is
Yeah.
one for the open space.
Right.
Maybe some, you know, some are by law or whatever, but not this
Right.
one.
Yeah. So sort of a general, like, announcement of that is something I think would be good. Also wanted to quickly say, we talked previously about the other town committees of the Conservation Commission and the Rec Committee, and I have sent an invitation to the Rec Committee chair saying, we're starting to do this work. We'd love to connect with you, and if there's a liaison from that committee who wants to either officially be a member of this appointed committee or just participate as liaison, that's, you know, I think that can happen in different ways. There are flexible ways for that to happen, but I think it's important. I haven't connected with David yet, but, the chair of the rec committee, but I think we will. And, Mike, did his homework.
Did.
And reached out to the Conservation Commission, and I've also talked to Sean, our conservation agent, and so he's opening up that, invitation to the Conservation Commission. So hopefully there would be someone from that group willing to also liaison.
Yeah, it sounded like Sean himself was interested.
Yeah,
If we could adjust the days that we meet on, just because
Right.
it conflicts with
yeah, yeah.
their schedules, so.
Yeah, he was, and I talked to him a little because, again, just kind of, I think there's an openness to being staff and serving on a committee, but I think you can also be staff and support the committee without necessarily, like, being an appointed member. So however he is interested in that, he's definitely has a good open space background, and so, anyway, so 2 other potential members from each of those committees, I think would be great.
Yeah, I feel like we sort of agreed on who on our last meeting, and like who was gonna be like our representative to go there, or go to their meetings and talk about it. But I don't remember it, and for some reason I didn't write it down, or and maybe I'm misremembering, but it sounds like you got the Conservation Commission to reach out to them. I didn't see it in the meeting notes either, so I was like, didn't we say that we were gonna do something? And all agreed on it, because I'm honestly trying to remember if I volunteered for something, and I don't have it on my list. So if I did, and anybody can remember, please remind me. But
I don't remember, but I know that I did reach out to the rec committee, so maybe I volunteered. I'm gonna put it there. But yeah, following through and making sure, that's a great idea. If any of you wanna actually attend things, I don't know. I can look when our next meeting is, which could help us with that question. So anyway, and then the other thing, just to like, I put it on the agenda, but just when we're all like reappointed, we have a new like us for fiscal year 25. It's great to, if people might start thinking now if they'd be interested in being a chair of the committee or a vice chair or a scribe, helping with minutes. I think in June, like maybe we could shoot for talking about that if anyone's interested.
can you give a little description of how you envision, like what you think the roles and duties would be of those positions? I think I got the scribe, but what about the other ones?
Yeah.
How do you envision that?
Well, I don't know, maybe I'll turn to David and Martha, who've like been on this committee, or did you have a chair before?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
sure.
And
Well,
sort of working with staff to call the meeting and set the agenda, and just kind of doing a lot of talking.
it's-
So kind of,
it seemed to me that it was Dan, right?
Yeah.
That was Dan.
Dan Streeter, and then,
And Dan and I were co-chairs for a time before I was actually working here.
yeah,
And then I think it was Dan after.
yeah,
that.
it was, yeah. Who, at that point, importantly, was on the Conservation Commission. Yes, he was.
Was he on the rec committee at that, was he on the rec committee at that
Yeah,
point?
well, yeah, he,
Jeff
yes,
was
yes,
on
he
con
was
to
playing
us at that
liaison,
point.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, because, oh boy, I mean.
Time flies.
Boy, it was the days of Manta Fields, before it was Manta Fields, okay, when it was going to be a 45 house development. Anyway, yeah, so he was in a key position. My memory is that he chaired the meeting in the sense of opening it and closing it, and that it was a sort of group process as to how, I don't think he drew up agendas. I think we drew up agendas at the close of a meeting and then added to it. It was a pretty small group, and of course it was very much, I hate to say this because I was so fond of her, but it was in many ways quite dominated by Marlene Schroeder, who none of you probably know, except Martha certainly did, who was a wonderful activist who sadly died of cancer several years ago. And she used to come with her husband, Norm, who is a delightful guy, but quite different, very quiet, and then would suddenly open up and you would discover that in fact he'd been sort of mentally annotating the whole meeting and then summed it up in a paragraph. But she was tapped into all kinds of stuff and very much an advocate for conservation and particularly, in fact there's a trail out of in Newburyport at the end of Colby Farm Lane. You know where that is. There's a composting area in Newburyport, which is off Low Street. You go down Colby Farm Lane, and that trail in the woods there is dedicated to her name. And she was really good in the sense that she was able to pull in information and people and so on. She's a Pied Piper of an important sort. And I think gave us all a run for our money in the sense that she would come and well, rev up, what have you been doing?
She was a force of nature.
Yes, yeah, very good. Yes.
And she always came with Oreo cookies.
Well, there you go. There's the job description. That's great.
Okay, thanks.
I don't see the rec committees, I don't see their next meeting currently on the town calendar, but we can find out when it is. I think they usually meet on Mondays. And I did see it says, must meet no less than quarterly and strives to meet once a month. So that's in there, the rec committee strive.
I think the important thing about them is they have the ear of the select board, in my estimation, because they've come up with a fully fledged plan, they have their own budget, and they're looking, I don't know whether you've seen the plan, but it's extensive and it's pushed out, what, 10 years maybe, something like that, I guess, and it does incorporate a trail around the whole area, sort of incorporating stuff that kind of exists. There are social trails now, but things like a connection to Triton and stuff like that. And they got a very good reception when they did. I happened to be there the night I guess I was appearing to be questioned and grilled by the select board. And they got a very good reception, I think.
For that, the master plan for. the
Yeah,
Central Street
right.
Fields.
And, you know, I mean, it's comprehensive and impressive, and they had a budget. And that's one of the things which I think is interesting, that they're an independent agent, because they're a self-funding issue. They don't have to, well, they can go get grants and things, but essentially they charge money, and so, you know, they have an income stream.
For the use of.
Right,
the fields.
yeah, which of course we don't.
Yeah.
If we, you know, and maybe we end up not going this way, but maybe we should also make the decision, at least this meeting or next meeting, on the survey. Because I agree that there could be some ways of questions or questions that we want to ask that a consultant might be able to help us with, so that we don't kind of miss the boat on anything. But I also remember there being conversation that Merrimack Valley Planning Commission might also be able to like step in and give us a little bit of time. So I just wonder if that would be feasible in the next month or two to get some help from them on this, using some hours under the existing contract or like the usual contract while we wait to see if we get money this fall. So at least we could kind of move forward with that, but getting some professional opinion on it too.
Yeah, I went to my first town meeting the other day, and I was really impressed with Merrimack Valley. Ian stood up, he really knew his
Yeah.
stuff, and presented well, spoke well. And so I was like, wow, what a great resource, and I don't really have a total grasp of what they can do for us. I don't know if it's possible to have them at a meeting, or if you have better resources, I guess, to direct us to.
I mean, I think there are options. They could, potentially be our consultant for the open space plan update if that's what we wanted to do. We could issue an RFP for a consultant. There are a lot of people out there who do it. Because we've been talking about having a consultant be, sort of very heavily involved in the public engagement, there's part of me that's thinking, it could be appropriate to have a survey as part of that public engagement process rather than our trying to jump the gun. But
Yeah. Makes sense.
Can we ask them actually maybe to come briefly and present to us what they can do for a committee like this? Because it seems to me, well, to be blunt about it, the rest of you don't know. I do, and so does Martha, within a range of things, because Martha's currently the representative of the town to the MVPC, and I was for 10 years. And I think, my guess is that Gerard would be willing to ask one of his young folk to come and for maybe 10, 15 minutes, lay out the kind of range of stuff so we as a group can hear it. Would that be helpful? Because I hear you asking that sort of question.
Yeah. I think it would be helpful if they're willing to do it. I think it would be helpful. We were sort of rattling off on the last meeting, all the sections that needed to be updated, they were all highlighted and annotated, and, I think that Merrimack Valley was kind of, oh yeah, they could do a lot of that. So,
Yeah.
hearing from them would be interesting.
I forget which town they've most recently been working with on their open space and recreation plan. We can certainly find that out and ask the question.
Part of me wonders though, going back to like putting something on a news item on the homepage and some kind of sign up or something, maybe there's something about like a pulse survey or something that's just a little way to get this summertime engagement,
Yeah,
interest. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's not
the survey, but it's
right,
a
but
survey.
it's a way to collect a list of interested people, to maybe you still do offer some kind of incentive even to answer the pulse survey,
Yeah,
and get
yeah.
emails, and again, not create necessarily a newsletter sign up. We really don't have that right now, but something that,
I mean, it's gonna create awareness, like most people in the town have no idea about open space committees or even open space in general.
exactly, introduce ourselves, why are we different than the rec committee, like, things
Yeah,
along those
that's-
lines, without,
right.
but it is 3 bullets or
Yeah.
something, just enough, and then, give us your email address,
Yeah.
and you'll be entered to get a town hat, or whatever it is, something along those lines. I can't help but think, because you were saying about the summertime, and a survey, if we do hire a consultant, probably would not come out for a while, right?
Yeah, right.
So,
So is there more than one, the way, and again,
Yeah.
I regret I didn't reread this before the meeting, but I think you were saying like you pulled them at the beginning and then pulled them at the end. Like, is there, in terms of the whole process, is there, like, which is what you're saying, but like something we could do now knowing
Yeah.
that at a later date, when we have a consultant on board, we're doing something
Yeah.
bigger, which fits into the whole process. Like here's, I mean, I don't know what it is now, like something pretty open-ended, right?
Yeah, we're just
What do you
in it.
think, or blah, blah, blah. And then like at a midpoint, it's like how to prioritize, and then at the end of it, it's like, what do you think of these priorities? Like you're getting feedback on the actual plan. That's sort of the process of other plans, like the hazard mitigation plan or the housing production plan, or sort of discrete points along the way where you're getting input on whatever you've done to date.
Yeah, different stages.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can, it seems to me, have a deliberate process whereby you have an initial survey,
Yeah,
which is almost like cold calling in a sense, it used to be called. And then after probably when you've got your final, zingy plan, you then go to either a subset. That's why I think encouraging people to actually share their identity, perhaps just electronically, is good, because then you can go back to people who've been willing to do that and say, okay, this is what, we've produced. What do you think about it? And then I think it's possible maybe to draw some conclusions as to whether what you've done has moved people from maybe where they were. If you have, I think I've seen surveys that do this, you basically have, 3-4 questions which you repeat to the select group and you see if it's moved. And one of those things, who did this? Somebody did this. Concord maybe. Somebody who was, some community that was trying to do this CPA, what that is, right?
Community preservation.
Yeah, the Community Preservation Act. They did it, and it was very interesting because what happened was their information clearly moved a whole lot of people, because suddenly from where Bill just said people who don't know what open space is all of a sudden realized that actually it's fundable. Now I know, and I did, I think I told you, I took the opportunity of my appearance, my Inquisition appearance before the select board to encourage them to think about the CPA, because we really should. And, because people do not understand it's a sliding scale. Most people think it's, like 2, 3, 4%, which it's not. I mean, it could be, but it's not going to be. It could be, 0.01 if you wanted it to be. I think there's actually a lower limit. But anyway, that kind of thing.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so how about, we can reach out to MVPC, and also it could be helpful, I think, to reach out to Emily Innes, who's our local resident consultant who helped with the master plan and also does a lot of consulting work for communities, and just get either, are you willing to come to the next meeting and talk for 10 minutes about like what services you've provided or what you think could be helpful for Newbury, both.
Wait, are they two different, does Emily work for MVPC or Emily's her own consultant?
She's her own consultant, so she helped us with the master plan update.
Did they ever work together?
They did.
Also MVPC also worked on it?
They actually did coordinate, because MVPC did several sections of the master plan update as well as the mapping. So that's kind of a...
So could you envision a scenario where we get some grant money and we can hire both of them for certain scopes for this plan?
Might be possible. I mean,
Could be,
especially,
yeah.
Especially having MVPC do the mapping, because they've already got so many maps of the community, and they've done the maps for the previous open space plan, and a lot of things like the superficial geology doesn't change, things like that. So
Yeah.
I think it would be, they do a great job, and it would also be most efficient.
I know, were you at town meeting the other night?
Bill was, I was away in California.
Well, the current director of MVPC lives on Plum Island. He's actually a good friend of mine, and he stood up and spoke to the MVBTA thing.
Yeah.
And so, to some degree, we're lucky here in that we have someone.
Yeah, that was what Bill was saying. He he said he was really impressed by what he said, and that's kind of what prompted the conversation of, can they come talk to us?
Yeah.
Because he was impressed by him the other night, and so that's
Yeah,
what.
yeah, well, Gerard's lived here a long time, and he started as the GIS guy at NVPC. That's what, when I first got to know him, that's what he was doing, and he's a whiz at that kind of stuff too. He has now 2 people, yeah, at least 2, maybe 3.
Yeah.
Yes, they've got 3.
Yeah,
right now.
right,
I think
and
they're looking for
it used to
four.
be, Gerard and 2 computers, so.
Right,
you know.
right, yeah, no, their staff is growing, and they have,
Very strong on data, and they can answer almost any question pretty quickly.
Does the town have any requirements where in order to, sign an agreement with a consultant or MVPC that they have to go out for multiple bids and take the lowest bidder?
there are procurement requirements, it depends on the dollar value of the contract.
And based on what you're feeling like, do you have a sense as to whether we, which rules will apply?
And it depends, I mean, if we're looking at $60,000, I think we would have to go out to bid. If it's 30, we don't, so.
Isn't 5 one of the breaking points? 5,000 for something, I'm trying to think.
I'm not sure, I mean, at this point, we could get consulting services or engineering services for up to 30 without.
Yeah, I think that's one of the sort of points. that,
But you're right, there was five at one point, but I think
Yeah, right.
they've changed a little.
Right, and you can't play games with it, by the way. That you could do 2, but they shouldn't be in the same year.
But MVPC has a couple of people who are, specifically in their environmental group, Hannah Mogensen and Cece Gerstenbacher, and, they're both very energetic, great, I mean, they've got a fabulous staff right now, so.
Great.
Yeah, I was wondering, since they did not complete the open space map for the master plan, I think in hopes that this committee was going to reform and update this, if I can say this the right way, do they owe us a map still for the master plan? That is, it is that map, it's the same map that's needed for this plan, like is that, wasn't completed, so like, is that still, like in the budget of the master plan work that got done, or is that kind of, that book closed? And
Yeah, I think that book is
Okay.
pretty much closed, but, the basis is still there,
Yeah.
so that's probably not a tremendously heavy lift.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I also wonder, how, we can support both the consultant and VPC too to help, maybe limit some of the costs as well, I mean, the consultant is going to, go to the assessor and they're gonna call me at Greenbelt and they're gonna, compile all these sources that, we might be able to take on some of that to be like, okay, here's this data set for this section, like, you don't have to spend 4 hours working on that, you know what I mean? Like, we've given this to you to help, keep that
Yeah.
number down a little
But a
bit.
lot of that, I think we did before. Any, information that we could get in-house, like the assessor's records and things like that, I think actually you and Dan had pulled a lot of that stuff for one of the iterations of the plan. So I think, that's something, you're absolutely right. We don't
Yeah.
need to spend
Yeah.
consultant funds on.
Okay.
And actually, Newbury's a little different in that via MyMap, which is this mapping program which is available on the town website, you can get all kinds of information. It's a little, you can't survey it, but the interesting thing is the baseline for that is NVPC's files. And so they're the guys who can ask you the very specific, who you can ask for a very specific readout from that data.
Yeah,
And so actually, the unfortunate thing is where it falls down most often is our assessors' records, and that's not necessarily the fault of the assessors, it's the fault of the records over time. But yeah, that's why I suggested we need to maybe sort of interrogate what they can do and to have a sort of live thing, I think might be helpful, because I can think of a lot of dumb questions I've asked them over time. And sometimes they've said, oh yeah, you know, this afternoon, and sometimes they've said, no, David, can't do that. You know, so.
Certainly seems like it would be helpful to help us craft a scope of work.
Yeah.
That can,
Yeah.
you know, put a
Yeah.
cost to.
Well, that's, yeah, so, yeah, like we need to do this because we need a budget for the grant proposal. So we need to know if we're asking for 60,000 or maybe we don't need that much, you know. The advice I've heard about One Stop is ask for more than you need because they're probably gonna cut you down a little and like you end up with what you actually need. So I don't know, you know, how competitive this particular grant fund is. I think we should ask for what we reasonably need and just make a good proposal.
Do they publish what they do? In other words, can you find a list of the grants they've given?
Yeah, I looked at, that's how we got to the 60, which was in the expression of interest, was looking at what other towns have received for open space rec plan updates. It's pretty, there's not a lot of detail around, you can't see the actual scope of work, but you can see the project and the funds that
Right.
Grant gave.
So, I mean, it helps you to tailor
There's a range, but.
your, so the request has to be, does it have to do with population served by any chance? Do you think?
I don't remember, probably, yeah, how much capacity is like. I mean, bigger towns sometimes have more staff to do more stuff. Like Ipswich has an open space program manager in their planning office, so it doesn't necessarily, I think, correlate with population total, because sometimes bigger towns that you might think would need more money actually need less because they have more staff capacity. So I think it depends.
Yeah, so
60 is
the-
what you put in, 60 is the number though that you put in.
Yeah.
If we're looking for 60 grand, and I said, okay, yeah. Put
Yeah,
it
but
up.
we need an actual budget and that can change. There's no commitment that we have to have it stay at 60.
Yeah. But we have to give, like, in the next 3 weeks though, we have to come up with some line items.
We'll be coming, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think it's, again, it's a pretty, there's not a lot of complicatedness around doing an open space and rec update, so I think it won't be, it won't need a lot of detail because they understand what that project means,
Yeah.
the funders.
True.
Yeah, and I wonder too, just, I mean, with the woman in town that worked in the master plan, was a consultant in the master plan. Master plan is so new, you know, is the update for, like, if she were to be awarded this, you know, I mean, is it truly a super heavy lift to bring some of that info that just got published a year ago, you know, into this plan? I mean, I just printed out like the natural resources section of the master plan. I mean, so many of the goals that are in that seem to be like natural goals for the open space plan too.
And that
you
was-
know,
Yeah.
That was actually the hope that we would get that section done in the master plan, and that would be the springboard for the update of the open space and recreation plan. And actually, MVPC was very heavily involved in writing that section.
Gotcha, okay. Yeah, we even wondered about some of the questionnaire stuff, you know, just the,
Was that,
you know, it's not super old.
CC and Anna, or was that previous?
No, CC and half,
Okay,
yeah, primarily CC, I think.
okay.
Yeah, in fact, we went to them back in 2006, 7, to MVPC, and said, help! We needed the environmental, you know, that whole section which deals with what do you got, and what is it, and basically, why I was making the suggestion I did is that this was the planning board's master plan, okay? And, okay, well, they were sort of treading water. And so, David Mountain, who was the then chair, and I put our heads together And I went and invited essentially the Natural Environment Conservation Program Director from MDPC and the GIS guy, who was Gerard, who I mentioned earlier, and I asked them to come to the planning board. And it was wonderful, because what it turned out was that all of our queries were things that they could relate to and talk about their potential, and suddenly they were having a conversation within NVPC that hadn't happened before, because what was happening before is the requests were going down one tube and another tube, and they were in the silos and they didn't know. I mean, they knew vaguely, and so that's what can happen. And so to get to Mike's thing, a lot of what has to be an open space plan in terms of the base data is already in the master plan, except you change a word or two here and there, but the data doesn't change.
Okay, so what I'm thinking is, I'm looking at the calendar and thinking if we are able to set our next meeting date, that will be a good deadline for having, well, so let's think about it. The proposals are due June 6th, which is very soon, actually. So let's, so maybe we need a meeting earlier than June 4th, which is what I was like looking at, thinking I could have a draft of a proposal. We could, but what we're talking about is getting more discrete information from MVPC in advance so that we can more carefully describe what we actually need funding for. So here we are, May 7th.
The 28th is the day after Memorial Day. That's also a Tuesday.
Yep.
There's a select board meeting that night, which I would most likely be at, but
Is there also, did MVPC and Emily, did they give us proposals for the master plan that we could say, oh yeah, they're gonna do similar things to this, like there might be a little tally of things that we don't have to recreate the words because they've already told us what they did for that plan. We want them to do some of the same stuff for this plan.
Right.
That might help us write our proposal because it has some categories of work that they do.
yeah, and they kind of came into a process that was partly done, so it's not really apples to apples, but we need to go back and look at the scopes of work and see.
Even if we steal like a couple categories of words, then we don't have to make them up
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
from scratch.
So if we could, what about the 21st? There's a lot of stuff on there, but it's Board of Assessors, 3 o'clock, Board of Trustees, and CONSCOM. That's 2 weeks from now, which is maybe a lot, but we could even, I'm thinking if they can come to that meeting and help answer our questions, having it a little earlier would be helpful. So if they might be available. We can also, how do you guys feel about Zoom? I prefer this, but if CC could only zoom in or something, maybe we could do something.
I think that's good.
That would work, right?
Yeah, I was even gonna ask what the capabilities were, if you guys had a projector, we could, even if we were together, you could do a mix or something like that,
Yeah.
or we just all do Zoom, that's fine.
Yeah,
We do it every day, all the time.
Every day, all day.
yeah. We have a meeting with CC. She's the town's consultant who helps with the Green Communities program, which is energy efficiency, which, yay, if you haven't heard, Newbury has just been designated a green community. We're the last one to get there for, like, in the North Shore, I think, or maybe there's a couple other towns.
There's a couple of others, but.
So
we're
it's
among the
great,
best.
there's been a lot of work leading up to as designated, so that's exciting. So anyway, we're meeting to talk about the first grant that program provides for Newbury on Thursday. But I can reach out to her tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah, the 21st works for me. I know there was some traffic. I didn't totally follow it all about this meeting being on the 21st, and I wasn't sure if there was a conflict that pushed us to today, but
Right. Yeah.
the 21st right now is fine for me.
Yeah.
I didn't go back. I just.
The reason was this room wasn't available, and then I had the dates confused about when game night was. You want to come to game night that night here, but if we're doing this on Zoom,
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
then that goes away. Okay.
So maybe
Yeah.
generally 21st, okay.
Yeah.
I have T-ball right before then.
Oh.
So I'm still reason I was like, I can do both.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it goes Zoom, then it's easy to
That's
just go home from the
easier.
game with,
Yeah.
once you're,
Okay.
jump on that, so.
Okay. Well, if that works sort of for everybody, let's shoot for that. Cross our fingers if CC is available.
And are we thinking CC comes like for the first part and Emily comes to the second part? Are we gonna try and get both of them? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I know, we have to,
Maybe we should just stick with MVPC.
Okay,
How does that sound?
follow your lead, yep.
Sure.
If we, we can think about that a little bit, but yeah, that would be awkward after we're both focusing, but whatever. They're both consultants, they're used to that, right? So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's what I was trying to figure out. I feel like they already know that they do different things and so they wouldn't be bidding on the same work, so I don't.
Right,
But
I don't
you guys have a better
know.
sense of that. If it's
It's a
too
good question.
tight
Yeah.
and close, then
yeah,
best
okay.
to just leave it.
We'll look into that and figure out what seems the best. It's a good question. Pretty sensitive to that. Okay. Cool. What else?
just thinking, if nothing else, maybe, one or both of them would be willing to, send us a scope of work that they've done for another.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one. Just something.
And that would be easy to ask from both of them.
Yeah. Again, it's a pretty straightforward, it's not a lot of complicated pieces about completing the open space. Like if they've done it before, they know what the workbook says and what's required, so they have some expertise on that, so. Okay. The last thing on the agenda was acceptance of the minutes and items otherwise not reasonably anticipated, or anything else anyone wants to talk about? How are the minutes?
10 o'clock at night on the couch.
That was awesome, because I was like, sweet, here we are. And I just added a couple of things to make it consistent with how they looked before, so it was awesome. Did everyone get a chance to read them? Okay. So I'm gonna make a motion to accept the April 16th Open Space Committee meeting minutes.
I can make the motion to accept.
Awesome. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
I should have said any discussion. All in favor? Great. Okay. It's great to see those populating our committee page, just filling in for some of its current activity. I think that's good. Yeah. Great. Any other topics?
No, but I think if we want to, I guess the only other thing is for the agenda for next time, do we want to try and like nail down what is going to be our like next or first, next step for like that pushing out, hey, Open Space Committee is reinvigorated and we're working on a plan. If you're interested, go here to our website and ask for, meeting dates or something, so at least we start getting people geared up for that.
Yes, and that's actually, thank you for saying that, because when you were talking about how at the meeting, you set the agenda for the next meeting.
Mhm.
That would actually be helpful if we wanna
Yeah,
just do
okay.
that right now. I would love that
Mm.
conversation, and let's just set it now. So we hopefully have a presentation by one or two consultants. We have finalizing what we were just saying, which is.
Yeah, public announcements or
Public
something.
announcement,
I don't
yeah.
know what to call it.
Outreach, public.
Public outreach.
Outreach,
Yeah.
step number one.
If someone's gonna click, well, maybe I don't want to get too far down the road already, but if someone's gonna enter their email, we just have to figure out how that's gonna work, who's gonna track that? Like, it's gotta go someplace, on a form someplace.
Okay.
So, it's just, that's a background thing.
Yeah. So let's think about that a little more though, like, do we wanna gather emails if people are willing to, and what would we use them for? And then also the like, do we need a reward for?
Carrot. Think of a carrot.
Yeah.
So wait, are we talking about the survey now, or are we talking about the like, just kind of public service announcement, hey? I
Right.
guess I can't have a mental picture in my head of how I signed up so that I get the agendas for the Conservation Commission and Planning Board. But are you saying that somebody can choose to get the agenda for these meetings?
Yes.
Okay. So I feel like our public announcement would be like, hey, Open Space Plan Committee, getting ready to do this. We want to know what the townspeople think. If you want to like keep track of our progress, click on this website and choose Open Space Committee so that you at least are notified, which is like a start.
Yeah.
Maybe like a soft start, as opposed to asking for people's email addresses at this point. Does that seem like anyway, we can talk about it next time, I guess, because it's really on the agenda for next time, but.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure.
Yeah, all right, well, maybe we'll test it out.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll test it out on the
We can
website.
look
That could be
at
like
it.
research. Why don't we all like do a little
I mean,
research?
I was referring to the newsletter sign up because that's always the first thing you try to do on, say, NECOM or an
Yeah.
organization's website. Right? Just get the name and get the email address, and maybe it's couched as a newsletter, but you're saying the same thing. It's just about getting meeting
Getting meeting
notices.
announcements.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a little more than just what you get currently on the town website to sign up for the
Yeah.
auto notification. Just a little more colorful or something. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I'd have to go back and look at what the town.
How soon though do we need to do that? Because it's, okay, if you start that, you got to keep it rolling. Otherwise you blow all the energy you put into it. In other words, if you're going to have a marketing campaign, you've got to have
The long game in mind, yeah.
you've got to have the date lines, as it were, already set up. And I'm just wondering, at this point, we're not really, we're not really ready for prime time. It would seem to me,
Not a lot of content.
personally, anyway. But at the same time, I do think that some maybe, well, discreet's not the right word perhaps, but informed reaching out might help us, because how do you find the people who've sort of replaced the Marlene Schroeders and the Dan Streeters? Because those are some of the people we need. And I was just thinking today, driving past where they count the fish at the fish ladder at the falls, right? And there were a couple of people there, and I almost stopped, but it's a god-awful place to stop.
Yeah, it is.
And, leapt out to grab them and say, gee, but because I think
Yeah,
a couple of people like that would really,
we should
Yeah.
stick a QR code on it.
yeah,
The guardrail there.
right. But now is it the Watershed Association that's still doing that, or
It's Parker River Clean Water.
is it Parker River? Because Parker River's gotten
Yeah.
absorbed into.
It's
Yeah,
Bill's
it's
organization.
them.
It's the same.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Fisherman Fisheries, and we have a electronic fish counter there, so it's not, the guys, I help them, it's not my project, it's a different project.
Is there a citizen counting,
No, they're,
volunteer counting big thing there?
not there.
No.
No, not that.
So when
one.
you see cars and people, it's just people who, like, it's either staff, like, doing the monitoring or checking the.
Yep, we got a big
Or
giant blue
it's-
F-250, F-350 with a cap.
So
You'll see
otherwise,
us.
it's just people who are kind of interested to check it out.
Yeah, yep,
Yeah.
Fisherman.
yeah, Fisherman.
So that is a
Like
good
a
place
school
to
is
like.
Yeah.
Us, me.
Yeah,
I'm there with my phone.
yeah,
Yeah,
cool,
it's cool.
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just interesting how a lot of people know about that and they stop and they look.
yeah.
It is, it's very,
Despite the very scary.
despite how dangerous it is.
Poisonous.
Well, it's a
Yeah.
very public kind of thing in a way, you know, I mean, among other things, I've had total strangers, relatively speaking, say, what are these people doing peering into,
Yeah.
you know, I have no idea, because a couple of years ago, or more than that, you know, there were people out, that whole fishland had some problems, right, and when somebody fell in there at some point, it was, oh yes, a headline, Daily News, you know, count fish field, anyway, yeah. But other things like, now I'm wondering, would places like, for example, a wildlife refuge be willing to share their Newbury database, supporters database with us? Something like that? Because I bet you people who are interested to volunteer and get involved from Newbury in that, all,
Yeah.
you know.
Or at
those are the-
least like send out our,
Yeah.
our release with the QR code once
Right,
we get
right.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sure they.
Right, right.
And again, that is the most effective way to get people to do it, because if it's coming straight from us, to your point, oh, that's, you know, it's the town, whatever, but if you have something or a group or organization that someone's already following, that they trust, and then if they come in and send an email to you saying, hey,
Right.
check out the Open Space Committee, and this is what they're trying to do, you're gonna get a great response out of it.
Yeah.
I think.
yeah, right.
So, I think what we're talking about for the next agenda is the first, like, soft, like, hey, we're a thing and we're getting activated and are you interested and sign up, right? Like, okay, right, that's agenda number 2. Discussing,
Well, a group that's,
Confirming
yeah,
that
but a
public
group that's
outreach.
just done it, if
yeah,
you think about it, are the Rat Poison group. Right? They- No, think about it.
They
They
just use them
built
as a
from, okay, yes, we're on camera, I can't say this. Anyway, 3 delightful ladies got together, one of whom is a doctor, okay? And with great enthusiasm, and I don't know whether it was just knocking on doors, my guess is it was some of that, and all of a sudden, like fungus in town, all of those things began to appear. And then now, according to one of them I spoke to the other day, planning to go statewide, right? Taking this, yeah, but very successful,
Yeah.
because they
yeah.
had
that
more
was a
signs
citizen
out.
campaign.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And interesting, they had it was really strange, had a very slick, I'll say slick, a good website, but it was totally anonymous. So I wrote them an email and I said, wow, guys, this is really good, but you really need to say who you are, because in these days you could be, anyone, and you're talking about something that has some legal and other kind of implications and so on. But
Yeah.
maybe they'd be willing to share their secret.
Yeah.
In
Well,
fact,
know,
I asked them whether they'd be,
Join the committee. Yeah,
but we voted for it as a community, right?
Yeah.
First the selectmen did, nothing on town properties, and now we voted as a community that you can't use it on your own land,
Yeah,
right?
certain category of them, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it did, it passed.
right,
Yeah.
and it passed handily,
Images were
right, yeah.
impactful, for sure.
And they're very nice, I have
Yeah.
to say, I chatted with a couple of them.
Yeah.
So they might be.
I know they did their work. They were in here meeting with Rep. Kasner, they've attended multiple select board meetings. I think Mass Audubon
Mhm.
has a campaign around that project too, but I don't think they were on it. Yeah, it was impressive. Okay. What else is on the agenda besides the normal, like minutes? Maybe that's enough.
Yeah, between the presentation, the
And
minutes,
sign
the.
the update on the proposal, which I'll bring.
Right.
That reading.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. May 21st. If it's in person, we'll look into a room, not sure where. And if not, it'll be on Zoom.
And if it's on Zoom, or if it's in person, were we thinking for time, were we thinking 7
Oh,
or?
that's so good. 7 o'clock. See you all over.
Yeah, I know, what works for you, is it?
Yeah, I get out at 6:45, so.
Oh, yeah, so 7's good.
5:45 to 6:45.
All right.
Are you voting or?
No, but just, yes,
Yes,
yes.
it's important.
Maybe a little inadvertent coaching, helping out wherever needed.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's very excited.
It's so fun. Awesome.
So what do you think
Okay.
about the possibilities of actually pulling together something that would be a good proposal? And by that, what I'm thinking is, depending how hard-nosed they are, could we reverse engineer this? Could we find a figure that we think would be successful, and then figure out what we need, what we would like to buy for that amount of money? And just get that done in the
Right.
4 weeks we have, and if they say, yay, you have it, then
Yeah.
we say, oh, well, we'd like to tweak it a little.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
Well, I think that's it's common to like talk with consultants about what would work for them. A little give and take on the budget ahead of time, so that you know that you're putting in something that you get the result of. But, that's how we came up with the 60, was based on what other towns have done for
Right.
updates that have
Okay.
gotten funded, based upon what we think is reasonable relative to the work that's been done recently and moving it forward. So that was a ballpark number. Maybe it's gonna be that number.
right. Now, we're dealing with a different division of guys within the state, right? Not the same kind of people who look at master plan proposals.
There's a planning and zoning category, but
Yeah.
then from there, they direct you towards
Right.
which one. And
But
since we're under 7,000 population, we are eligible, only towns under 7,000 population are eligible for this particular fund.
Yeah,
But you could get money, I think, from the same fund for our master plan. We could have. It is the same category. But
yeah,
there are
I'm just
other
wondering
categories.
on what basis you see they make, whether we can psych out at all, sort of what kind of decision-making process, pardon me, they're in. Because
Yeah,
one of the reactions I get living in Newbury, oh my God, you have more open space than, and we do. I can't remember, we're in the top 10
yeah,
in the
Because we have
state
so much salt marsh.
relative,
Yes.
yeah, relative to the
It's
size of the town. You know, we do, we have all the major players. We have Greenbelt, you know, and on and on and on, right? And I've always had a long argument with NVPC about the fact that they quote our population per square mile, okay? And don't take into account the fact that you can't live on, you know, X number of percentage of our land, okay? So they compare, I think we have an incredibly low per square mile supposed, which is crazy.
Yeah, no, the open space plan says that, the old one says it right there, it's like, if you take out all the salt marsh, then we're just like an average town, we're not low density.
Right,
Right, it's rich.
at all. In
Yeah.
fact, we're up there with some of the other communities in the Merrimack Valley that, you know, are very different. Anyway, my point being that it's possible that we can perhaps use it to our advantage that we have the presence of all these good people, because it's an already educated community that needs to save more of the kind of land it's already, you know.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think the state has already said every town should have an updated plan every 7 years, so I don't think we need to we won't need to sell that, just the basic gist of it, but we will need to make the case that we are ready to do this, we're, in a good position, we're, the readiness element, a clear timeline, other things, there's so much emphasis statewide on housing right now, so I think to the extent we can make that reality clear, that good planning for open space aligns with good planning for development, priority development areas, priority protection areas, how all of that is important for community planning. I think those will be the things they're looking for, so I don't think we'll be docked for having too much open space. Like, they want us to update our plan. So hopefully that will, be pretty, we'll be able to articulate that pretty clearly, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, to your point, it'll be fun to do this update, to really think about the places we want to be doing more proactively, right? Like, because we have what is on paper or on the map an abundance of open space. Okay, is it, what does it need, right? Like, what is what we have need, and what are our opportunities for future conservation, so, yeah.
Ella, have you heard anything that's interesting that, has jumped out at you during the meeting tonight that you might want to be interested
Here,
in
do you
this
want to write
summer?
a grant?
How are you writing
No.
proposals? No. Just wondering if you have any thoughts on all the things we're talking about in your town.
It's a lot to take in.
I know.
Yeah,
I
it
tried
is.
to figure out the Zoom,
Yeah.
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 Sorry, me too.
No, I kind of feel that way. I told you I'm in the software sort of tech business, and there's a
It's like a
lot
different world.
just to get used to. Yeah, it's almost a discovery process. So
Yeah.
it's good.
I think what's cool I've thought about is you all live in different parts of town. And I know I've talked with Sally,
Yeah.
Mel's mom, about connections, right? Like, you guys have to, if you want to go running or walking, you have to walk on Orchard Street, which is not the greatest,
Right.
safest place to be a
Yeah.
pedestrian. To get down to Middle Street, which is such an amazing, attractive place to be a pedestrian.
Yeah.
But like trail connections, like along the waterfront, right, with that creek property.
That's Creek.
There it is. Nice job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I was on planning board when that
Yeah.
CR went through, which was cool. So anyway, just, yeah.
Right.
And growing up in town, I think you have a unique perspective, like, like, where do you like to go, or just, you know, thinking about, so. And next time, Martha's bringing the Oreos. But yeah, we should also talk about, like, because, you know, we can try to keep these meetings to an hour or hour and a half for sure, if that, anyway, just open to trying to make this a reasonable commitment for everybody with everybody's busy time and lives and families and all the rest. So, great. Anyone want to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Any of those?
8:42. All right.